An Indian stamp with a sharp violet-brown color has made its way onto the table for episode 15. And on the stamp is the image of a fighter jet ascending through the clouds. The name of the fighter jet is in the bottom left corner, Gnat. This stamp is worth 20 Indian rupee paisa, and there is a postmark on the stamp. Not much information, but I do make out 3 letters, a G and 2 A's. Assuming that this is the name of the town that the stamp was postmarked, and that G is the first letter, the only town name that would fit is Gangarampur, which is in the northeast of India, very close to the border with Bangladesh. This is a fairly small stamp measuring 23 by 21 millimeters, and it was issued back in 1967. Now before we move on, I just want to point out this text next to India. This text is Hindi, and it says Bharat. Bharat is a traditional or classical name for India, and you'll see it on many other Indian stamps as well as the Indian currency. It's actually quite common for countries to put a traditional name or a translated name in the official language on a stamp, and we'll probably see a lot more of that to come. But let's take a look now into this fighter jet. This is the Folland Gnat. It's a British-made fighter jet that was used by the Indian Air Force during the 1960s. And it gets its name from the tiny flying insect because the plane itself is very small. And it played a vital role in the 1965 war between India and Pakistan. But for me to explain its significance, I need to introduce you to one more jet. This is the F-86 Sabre. It's an American-made fighter jet that was used by the Pakistan Air Force in the 1960s. And it had its moment in the early 1950s during the Korean War. Even though the plane was old when the Pakistan Air Force was using it, it was still a very well-respected war machine. So, what war am I talking about? Well, in 1965, there was a war between India and Pakistan. It was very short, it only lasted for 5 months. But it was over the disputed region of Kashmir. That's right around here. And the region has been in dispute since India and Pakistan gained their independence in 1947. Now the war took to the skies, and Pakistan should have been the dominant force with the F-86 Sabre. But India uses the Folland Gnat, a smaller, more agile and very difficult plane to see. The Gnat was so successful during the 65 war that it actually took down 7 Sabres for the loss of 2. And because of its success, it was nicknamed the Sabre Slayer. And the Indian Air Force loved the plane so much that they began to make it on their own, known as the Halajit, and of course India placed it on this stamp. Now, going back to stamps, just to prove how respected the F-86 Sabre was, different countries have placed the F-86 Sabre on their stamps, including the Marshall Islands, Antigua, Barbuda, and the Gambia, primarily for its success for the US Air Force in the 1950s against the Soviet MiGs. The 2 jets would get involved in intense dogfights. But in 1965, it was the little Gnat that was the victor. And finally, I found a couple of other Indian stamps with planes from the Indian Air Force, none of which have the Gnat on it. But this one here has something we just saw earlier, Bharat. Thanks for watching, everyone. More exciting episodes are coming, so definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you want to get clues as to what's coming next and more. See you next time.